Hey guys, tonight we step into the shadows of medieval streets where jack-o'-lanterns flicker with an eerie glow that's nothing like the cheerful pumpkins you know. The air carries the scent of burning herbs and roasted nuts, while children dart between houses wearing masks that would make modern horror movies seem tame. You're about to discover that Halloween night in the medieval world was less about candy and costumes and more about warding off the very real terror of wandering souls and malevolent spirits. So, before you settle in for this journey into the past, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe light a candle if you have one handy, and let's step together into the medieval celebration of All Hallows Eve, where the boundary between the living and the dead grew dangerously thin. You walk through the narrow cobblestone streets of a medieval town as October 31st draws near, and immediately you notice something unsettling. This isn't the Halloween you recognize. There are no plastic decorations, no children in superhero costumes, no bowls of candy waiting by doorsteps. Instead, the air thrums with genuine fear and ancient ritual. The people around you move with purpose, their faces grave as they prepare for a night when the supernatural world presses close against their own. Medieval people understood Halloween, or All Hallows Eve as they called it, as the most dangerous night of the year. This wasn't a celebration born from fun or fantasy. It was survival wrapped in ceremony. On this night, the veil between the world of the living and the realm of the dead was believed to be at its thinnest, allowing spirits, demons, and the souls of the departed to wander freely among the living. You pause outside a blacksmith shop where the man pounds iron with unusual urgency. His wife explains to a neighbor that he's forging horseshoes to nail above every door and window. Iron, they believed, repelled evil spirits. The sound of his hammer rings through the evening air like a battle cry against the approaching darkness. Children peek from doorways, their eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and terror that modern Halloween has never quite captured. The medieval celebration began at sunset on October 31st and continued through the following day, All Saints' Day. But the real magic happened in those first hours of darkness, when the spirits were said to be most active. Families gathered in their homes, doors barred, windows shuttered, armed with rituals passed down through generations to protect themselves from supernatural invasion. You notice how different the preparations are from house to house. In one cottage, an elderly woman sprinkles salt in a perfect circle around her property while muttering prayers in Latin. Salt was believed to create an impenetrable barrier that evil spirits couldn't cross. Her granddaughter follows behind, dropping breadcrumbs for any hungry souls who might be wandering. A gesture of appeasement rather than hospitality. At another home, you see a father helping his young son carve a turnip into a grotesque face. This is the true ancestor of the jack-o'-lantern, and it's nothing like the friendly pumpkin grins of today. The turnip's hollow eyes seem to stare with malevolent intelligence, its jagged mouth twisted into a snarl. They place a burning candle inside and set it in the window, not as decoration, but as a guardian. The flickering light was meant to confuse and frighten away any evil spirits attempting to enter the home. The smell of roasting apples and nuts drifts from kitchens throughout the town. But this isn't simply autumn comfort food. These were ritual offerings, prepared according to ancient customs. Apples were cut in specific ways to reveal the seeds inside, which were read like tea leaves to predict the future. Nuts were roasted, and their behavior in the fire interpreted as omens. If they burned quietly, the coming year would be peaceful. If they popped and cracked, turmoil lay ahead. You follow the sound of singing to the town square, where a group of young people has gathered around a bonfire. But their songs aren't cheerful Halloween ditties. They're ancient chants, half Christian hymn and half pagan incantation, designed to call upon divine protection while acknowledging the older powers that ruled this night. The fire itself serves multiple purposes, providing light to keep spirits at bay, warmth against the October chill, and a focal point for the community's collective ritual. The medieval church played a complex role in Halloween celebrations. Officially, the Catholic Church had established All Saints' Day to honor Christian martyrs and saints. All Hallows' Eve was supposed to be a solemn preparation for this holy day. But the common people couldn't abandon the older traditions that had protected their ancestors for centuries. So the celebration became a strange hybrid, mixing Christian prayers with pagan rituals, creating something entirely unique. You watch as a priest emerges from the stone church carrying a censer filled with burning incense. He moves through the streets, blessing homes and families with the fragrant smoke. The incense isn't just ceremonial. Medieval people believed certain scents could purify the air and drive away malevolent forces. Behind him follows a procession of townspeople carrying candles, their flames creating a river of light through the dark streets. But not everyone stays safely indoors or joins the blessed procession. You notice groups of young men and women wearing strange disguises, their faces hidden behind masks made from animal skins or carved wood. These aren't costumes in the modern sense. They're spiritual armor. By disguising themselves, these brave souls hope to move unrecognized among whatever supernatural beings they might encounter as they ventured out into the dangerous night. These masked figures engage in what they call souling, going from house to house, singing songs and offering prayers for the dead in exchange for soul cakes, special baked goods prepared specifically for this night. The cakes aren't treats in our modern understanding. They're spiritual currency, each one representing a prayer that will help free a soul from purgatory. The practice creates a complex web of obligation and protection, binding the community together against the forces of darkness. You follow one group of soulers as they approach a wealthy merchant's house. Their song is haunting, half melody and half chant, promising spiritual benefits in exchange for material offerings. The merchant's wife emerges with a basket of soul cakes, but she also hands them small coins and pieces of bread. This isn't generosity, it's insurance. By giving to the soulers, she ensures their prayers will protect her family through the dangerous night. The most unsettling sight comes as you venture toward the edge of town, where the graveyard lies shrouded in mist. Here, some of the bravest or most desperate townspeople have come to communicate directly with the dead. They kneel among the tombstones, leaving offerings of food and drink while whispering questions to their departed loved ones. The medieval mind saw no contradiction between Christian faith and this ancient practice. Death was a journey, not an ending, and on this night, that journey could briefly reverse direction. You notice how the very landscape seems to respond to the supernatural atmosphere. Shadows move independently of their sources. The wind carries voices that don't belong to any living throat. Even the animals behave strangely. Cats hiding under beds, dogs howling at empty air, horses refusing to leave their stables. The medieval world was one where magic felt as real as bread and stone. And on Halloween night, that magic reached its peak intensity. As midnight approaches, the celebrations grow more frenzied. You see young women performing divination rituals to glimpse their future husbands, staring into mirrors by candlelight, or dropping apple peels to see what letters they form. Young men test their courage by walking backward around churches or standing at crossroads calling out to spirits. These aren't games, but deadly serious attempts to peer into the supernatural realm and extract useful information. The food traditions of medieval Halloween were elaborate and meaningful. Every dish served a purpose beyond nutrition. Barmbrack, a sweetbread filled with hidden objects, was sliced and shared, with each person's piece revealing their fate for the coming year. A ring meant marriage, a coin promised wealth, but a piece of cloth warned of poverty or death. The tension as families shared these prophetic loaves was palpable, each bite potentially carrying life-changing news. Water played a crucial role in many Halloween rituals. Wells and streams were believed to possess special powers on this night, their surfaces becoming windows into other worlds. You watch as groups gather around the town well, dropping pins and needles into the water while making wishes, or trying to see the faces of their future spouses reflected in the moonlit surface. The water seems to shimmer with possibilities, each ripple carrying messages from the realm beyond. The medieval Halloween was a night of profound transformation, when ordinary people became spiritual warriors, when homes became fortresses, and when the familiar world revealed its hidden depths. It was celebration and terror combined, a recognition that life and death dance together in ways both beautiful and frightening. As you move through this medieval Halloween night, you begin to understand that our modern celebration, with its plastic decorations and store-bought costumes, is but a pale shadow of something far more powerful and mysterious. The church bells toll midnight, their bronze voices cutting through the October air with a resonance that seems to reach into your very bones. This is the moment medieval people feared most, when All Hallows Eve reaches its supernatural crescendo. You feel the atmosphere shift around you, as if the world itself has taken a deep breath and held it. The laughter from earlier in the evening fades to whispers, and even the boldest revelers draw their cloaks tighter against more than just the autumn chill. In the candlelit windows of houses throughout the town, you see families huddled together, not in celebration, but in vigilant waiting. Mothers clutch their children close while fathers grip iron crosses or sprigs of rowan, their knuckles white with tension. This isn't the cozy family time of modern Halloween traditions. This is a siege, with each household preparing to defend against invisible invaders. You notice how the very air seems to thicken as midnight passes. Sounds carried differently now, echoing strangely off stone walls and wooden shutters. A cat's yowl stretches longer than it should. Footsteps seem to come from empty alleyways. The medieval mind understood these weren't tricks of acoustics, but signs that the supernatural world was pressing closer, testing the boundaries between realms. The practice of mumming reaches its peak in these midnight hours. Groups of disguised figures move through the streets like living nightmares, their costumes designed not to entertain, but to terrify. They wear the heads of dead animals, their eye sockets hollow and gleaming. Some don crude masks carved from wood, their features deliberately distorted to look inhuman. Others wrap themselves in burial shrouds, moving with the shambling gait of the recently deceased. These mummers aren't performing for fun. They're engaging in sympathetic magic, becoming the very spirits they fear in order to control them. By embodying the supernatural forces of Halloween night, they hope to direct those energies away from their families and neighbors. Their performances are rituals disguised as entertainment, ancient magic wrapped in medieval pageantry. You follow one group of mummers as they approach a prosperous baker's shop. Their leader wears an enormous ram's head, its curved horns casting twisted shadows in the torchlight. He pounds on the wooden door with a staff topped by a human skull, demanding entry with a voice deliberately pitched to sound otherworldly. When the baker's wife opens the door, her face pale with genuine fear, she offers not candy but bread, ale, and silver coins. This transaction isn't trick-or-treating. It's spiritual protection money, payment to ensure these mock demons don't become real ones. The medieval Halloween was particularly dangerous for children who were believed to be more susceptible to supernatural influence. You see parents keeping their little ones indoors, doors locked, and windows sealed with iron nails. Those children who do venture out are heavily protected, wearing amulets around their necks and carrying pouches of blessed herbs. Their games aren't innocent fun, but training for spiritual warfare. They learn to recognize the signs of supernatural presence, to recite protective prayers, and to distinguish between harmless spirits and dangerous entities. In the wealthier districts of town, you discover that Halloween celebrations take on a more elaborate character. Noble families host feasts that blend Christian observance with older traditions. Their great halls decorated with autumn harvest, but also with protective symbols carved into wooden beams. The food they serve follows ancient recipes passed down through generations, each dish prepared according to ritual specifications that would make it unpalatable to evil spirits. The centerpiece of these noble feasts is often a massive boar's head, its tusks gleaming and its eyes replaced with burning coals. This isn't merely dramatic presentation. The boar was considered a powerful protective symbol. its fierce spirit capable of driving away supernatural threats. Carving and serving this ceremonial dish requires specific prayers and gestures, turning the meal into an elaborate exorcism disguised as dinner. You watch as servants light special candles made from tallow mixed with blessed salt and ground iron filings. These aren't ordinary illumination, but spiritual weapons, their flames believed capable of revealing hidden spirits and driving them back into the shadows. The light they cast seems different from normal candlelight, harsher and more penetrating, as if it burns with divine authority. The practice of dumb supper reaches its most intense form during these midnight hours. Families set places at their tables for deceased relatives, preparing elaborate meals for the dead with the same care they would show living guests. The food is real, the portions generous, but the diners remain forever absent. These aren't symbolic gestures, but actual attempts to maintain relationships across the boundary of death, to ensure that departed family members remember their living descendants with favor rather than resentment. You observe one such meal being prepared in a merchant's house, where the grandmother's place has been set with her finest silver plate and her favorite foods carefully arranged. The family speaks to her empty chair throughout the meal, updating her on family news and asking for her continued protection. The silence where her responses should be grows heavy and expectant, as if at any moment she might actually answer. The streets themselves become transformed during these midnight hours, with ordinary landmarks taking on supernatural significance. Crossroads, where two paths meet, are considered particularly dangerous spots where spirits gather to make bargains with the living. Wells become portals to the underworld. Even simple doorways are seen as potential gateways for unwanted supernatural visitors. You notice how townspeople avoid certain areas entirely on Halloween night. The old Roman ruins at the edge of town stand empty, their broken columns and crumbling walls believed to house ancient spirits that become active on this night. The abandoned mill by the river remains shuttered and dark, locals whispering that it's haunted by the ghost of a miller who died in suspicious circumstances decades ago. The medieval understanding of Halloween extends far beyond a single night of celebration. The effects of All Hallows' Eve were believed to linger for days, influencing everything from weather patterns to human behavior. Marriages arranged during this period were considered either blessed or cursed, depending on the spiritual signs observed. Crops harvested too close to Halloween might be tainted with supernatural energy. Even animals born around this time were watched carefully for signs of otherworldly influence. Weather plays a crucial role in medieval Halloween beliefs. A clear moonlit night like this one is considered especially dangerous because spirits can see clearly to navigate the mortal world. Fog and mist are equally threatening because they provide cover for supernatural movement. Rain might wash away protective salt circles and iron filings. Wind carries voices from the spirit world and can extinguish the protective candles that guard household thresholds. You discover that different regions have developed their own unique Halloween traditions, each adapted to local supernatural threats. In areas plagued by werewolf legends, families burn wolfsbane and hang silver ornaments from their windows. Regions known for vampire activity see people wearing garlic wreaths and carrying wooden stakes. Coastal towns where ghost ships are said to appear on Halloween night light beacon fires on cliff tops to guide the spirits safely past their harbors. The role of animals in medieval Halloween is complex and often frightening. Black cats, rather than being cute decorations, are viewed with genuine suspicion as potential familiars of witches or demons. Ravens and crows gathering in unusual numbers are seen as harbingers of supernatural activity. Even domestic animals behave strangely on this night. Horses refusing to cross certain thresholds, dogs howling at empty corners, and cattle huddling together in apparent fear. You witness a disturbing ritual taking place in the town square, where a group of elders has gathered to perform what they call the binding of shadows. Using chalk mixed with blessed water, they draw complex symbols on the cobblestones while reciting prayers in a mixture of Latin and older languages that predate Christianity. Their goal is to trap any malevolent spirits that might be wandering the town and prevent them from causing harm to the living residents. The medieval Halloween celebration reveals itself as something far more serious and spiritually charged than our modern interpretation suggests. It's a night when ordinary people become warriors in an invisible battle, when homes transform into fortresses, and when the familiar world reveals depths of mystery and terror that daylight carefully conceals. As the midnight hours stretch toward dawn, the true power and danger of All Hallows Eve continues to unfold around you, each moment bringing new revelations about humanity's eternal struggle with the forces that lie beyond death's veil. The pre-dawn hours bring no relief from the supernatural tension that grips the medieval town. If anything, the darkness grows more oppressive as Halloween night reaches its deepest point. You find yourself drawn toward the outskirts of the settlement, where the most dangerous and desperate rituals take place. Here, away from the protection of church bells and community prayers, individuals attempt to harness the very forces that others spend the night trying to repel. At the edge of an ancient oak grove, you discover a group of village wise women engaged in what they call the Great Summoning. These aren't witches in the popular imagination, but respected healers and midwives who understand the delicate balance between the natural and supernatural worlds. Tonight, they work to bind protective spirits to the community for the coming year, using Halloween's thin veil between worlds to their advantage. Their ritual circle is marked not with chalk, but with lines of crushed bone and ash, materials that speak directly to the realm of the dead. Each woman carries a staff carved with symbols that predate Christianity by centuries, their meanings lost to all but the most ancient practitioners. They move in patterns that seem to echo the turning of seasons, their voices rising and falling in harmonies that make your spine tingle with recognition of something primal and powerful. You watch as they place offerings at the base of the great oak, not the simple bread and ale offered to household spirits, but more substantial gifts. Fresh meat, still warm from recent slaughter. Silver coins bearing the faces of long-dead kings. Bolts of the finest cloth, worth more than most families earn in a season. These aren't casual offerings, but serious negotiations with powers that demand significant payment for their protection. The atmosphere around the ritual site feels different from the rest of the town. The air shimmers with an energy that makes your skin crawl and your breath catch. Shadows move independently of their sources, reaching toward the circle with what seems like hungry curiosity. The temperature drops noticeably as the ritual progresses, frost forming on the grass despite the relatively mild October weather. One of the wise women begins to speak, but her voice carries tones that no human throat should produce. She's become a conduit for something else, something ancient and powerful that has accepted the community's offerings in exchange for its protection. Her words aren't in any language you recognize, yet somehow their meaning penetrates directly into your mind. She's negotiating terms, establishing boundaries, setting the spiritual defenses that will guard the town through the dark months ahead. Back in the town proper, you discover that the midnight hours have brought their own unique traditions. Young unmarried women engage in divination practices so dangerous that they're only attempted on this night when supernatural forces are most active. You watch as one girl sits before a mirror flanked by two candles, trying to glimpse the face of her future husband in the flickering reflections. But the face that appears isn't always human, and sometimes the girls run screaming from their chambers, refusing to speak of what they've seen. The practice of soul caking continues through these dark hours, but it takes on a more urgent character. The soulless no longer move in cheerful groups, but travel alone or in pairs. Their songs become desperate pleas rather than jaunty requests. They know that the later the hour grows, the more dangerous their mission becomes, but also the more spiritually powerful their prayers for the dead become. You follow one solitary souler as he makes his way through the narrow alleyways, his carved turnip lantern casting wild shadows on the stone walls. His song has become a continuous chant, a protective mantra that he believes will keep malevolent spirits from possessing him as he moves through their domain. At each house, he receives not just soul cakes, but also protective amulets, small iron charms that homeowners press into his hands along with their offerings. The medieval understanding of time itself becomes distorted on Halloween night. Clocks run backward or stop entirely. Sundials cast multiple shadows despite the darkness. Church bells ring at impossible hours, their bronze voices echoing from empty towers. You notice how the townspeople have abandoned any attempt to track normal time, instead marking the night's progress by the intensity of supernatural activity around them. In the town's scriptorium, a lone monk continues his work by candlelight. But tonight, he's not copying religious texts. Instead, he records the supernatural events occurring throughout the community, creating a chronicle that will be consulted for years to come. His entries describe apparitions in specific locations, unusual animal behavior, and the effectiveness of various protective measures. This isn't superstition, but careful documentation of a phenomenon the medieval mind accepts as scientifically observable. The role of music in medieval Halloween extends far beyond the solar songs. Throughout the town, you hear different melodies serving various supernatural purposes. Mothers hum ancient lullabies that are actually protective spells. They're repetitive rhythms designed to create barriers against evil influences. Church choirs practice hymns in minor keys, their harmonies intended to resonate with angelic frequencies that demons cannot tolerate. Even the town's musicians have adapted their craft for Halloween night. The local minstrel plays his lute with strings made from blessed silver wire, creating tones that are said to be painful to evil spirits. His melodies tonight aren't for entertainment, but for warfare, each note precisely calculated to drive supernatural threats away from human habitation. You discover that medieval Halloween traditions extend into the realm of craftsmanship and artistry. Blacksmiths work through the night, forging special items that will only hold their protective power if completed before dawn. These aren't ordinary tools, but spiritual weapons. Crosses embedded with iron from meteorites, horseshoes blessed by 7 different priests, knives that can cut through supernatural manifestations as easily as they slice bread. The town's carpenter has spent weeks preparing for this night, creating wooden stakes from trees struck by lightning, carving protective symbols into door frames and window sills. His workshop glows with the light of blessed candles as he puts finishing touches on items that blur the line between practical craftsmanship and magical artifice. The medieval Halloween reveals itself as a complex ecosystem of spiritual practices where every profession and social class contributes to the community's supernatural defense. Bakers create bread marked with protective symbols. Weavers spin cloth embedded with silver threads. Even the town's gravedigger has a role, ensuring that recent burials are properly sealed with iron nails and blessed earth to prevent the newly dead from rising on this dangerous night. As the darkest hours stretch toward their end, you witness the most terrifying aspect of medieval Halloween, the appearance of actual supernatural phenomena that the elaborate preparations have been designed to address. Shapes move through the streets that cast no shadows despite the torchlight. Voices call from empty houses, speaking the names of living residents with impossible familiarity. The boundary between reality and nightmare becomes so thin that distinguishing between them requires skills that most modern minds have forgotten how to use. The medieval Halloween night continues to unfold around you, each moment revealing new layers of meaning in humanity's ancient relationship with the forces that exist beyond the veil of ordinary perception. The celebration you're witnessing isn't entertainment, but survival, not fantasy, but a deadly serious engagement with power that the medieval world understood to be as real and dangerous as fire or flood. The deepest hours of Halloween night bring forth phenomena that test the very foundations of medieval reality. You find yourself standing at the threshold of the town's oldest church, where the massive oak doors have begun to creak open and shut on their own, despite the absence of any wind. The sound echoes through the empty streets like the breathing of some enormous, invisible creature, each groan of the ancient hinges marking time in a rhythm that belongs to no earthly clock. Inside the church, you glimpse something that makes your blood run cold. The stone effigies of long-dead nobles have begun to weep, not tears of water, but drops of what appears to be fresh blood. The medieval congregation would recognize this as one of the most ominous signs possible, an indication that the dead are not resting peacefully in their graves, but are instead struggling to return to the world of the living. The parish priest, rather than fleeing from these supernatural manifestations, has armed himself with weapons both physical and spiritual. He carries a silver-bladed knife in one hand and a vial of holy water in the other, moving through his church like a soldier patrolling a battlefield. His Latin prayers echo off the stone walls. But tonight, they're not gentle supplications. They're commands, demands that whatever forces have invaded his sacred space retreat to the realm where they belong. You notice how the medieval understanding of supernatural combat differs dramatically from later fictional portrayals. These aren't battles fought with dramatic sword fights or magical explosions. Instead, they're wars of will and faith, conflicts where victory depends on the strength of one's spiritual convictions and the power of ancient protective rituals. The priest's greatest weapon isn't his knife, but his absolute certainty that his authority comes from a source more powerful than whatever forces threaten his community. Outside the church, the graveyard has become the epicenter of supernatural activity. Mist rises from the ground in unnatural patterns, forming shapes that almost but not quite resemble human figures. The medieval mind would interpret these as the souls of the recently departed, still tethered to their earthly remains, but unable to find peace. Some graves show signs of disturbance from within, the earth pushed up as if something buried has tried to claw its way back to the surface. A group of the town's most experienced spiritual practitioners has gathered among the tombstones, not to flee from the supernatural activity, but to engage with it directly. These men and women, a mixture of clergy and folk healers, understand that Halloween night offers a unique opportunity to help trapped souls find their way to whatever lies beyond death. Their work is dangerous, requiring them to communicate with entities that may be confused, angry, or actively malevolent. You watch as they perform what they call the Great Unbinding, a ritual designed to sever the connections that keep certain spirits anchored to the physical world. They move from grave to grave, speaking directly to whatever presences linger there, offering prayers, making bargains, and sometimes engaging in negotiations that would seem impossible to the rational mind. Some spirits accept their help gratefully, and you see the mist above those graves dissipate as the souls finally move on to their eternal rest. But others resist, clinging to their connection to life with a desperation that turns them hostile. These encounters become more confrontational, with the practitioners forced to use stronger measures to compel obedience. They sprinkle blessed salt in complex patterns, recite prayers in languages that predate the founding of the church, and call upon the authority of saints whose names have been forgotten by official doctrine, but are still remembered by those who were closest to the boundary between life and death. The most disturbing discovery comes when you venture into the town's oldest quarter, where buildings date back to Roman times and the foundations rest on even more ancient settlements. Here, the Halloween night has awakened forces that predate Christianity, entities that the medieval population acknowledges, but rarely confronts directly. The air itself feels thick and oppressive, charged with an energy that makes your skin crawl and your hair stand on end. In one crumbling courtyard, you find evidence of what the townspeople whisper about but rarely discuss openly. Stone altars carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Channels cut into rock that seem designed to carry flowing liquid, though what kind of liquid remains mercifully unclear. These aren't Christian sites, nor are they the work of the Germanic tribes that preceded the current inhabitants. They're remnants of something older and more primal, places where humanity once made bargains with forces that demanded higher prices than prayers and bread. Tonight, these ancient sites have awakened along with everything else, and the medieval community finds itself dealing not just with Christian concepts of heaven and hell, but with older powers that operate by different rules entirely. The wise women who performed the earlier protective ritual have moved to these locations, not to suppress the ancient energies, but to negotiate with them, to establish boundaries that will prevent them from spreading beyond their traditional domains. The negotiations are conducted in a mixture of languages, some recognizable as corrupted Latin or early Germanic dialects, others consisting of sounds that no human throat should be able to produce. The wise women serve as translators between the human community and entities that predate recorded history, entities that remember when the world was younger and the barriers between different realms were less firmly established. You observe how these ancient powers respond to different types of offerings. They show no interest in Christian symbols or prayers, but they react strongly to gifts of silver, honey, and fresh flowers. Their preferences suggest a connection to the natural world that Christianity later sought to suppress, but never entirely eliminated. The medieval Halloween celebration reveals itself as a time when these older agreements are renewed, when humanity acknowledges its dependence on forces that exist outside the official religious framework. The town's children, despite being kept indoors for their protection, play their own role in the night's supernatural drama. You hear their voices through shuttered windows, not crying in fear, but reciting rhymes and songs that their grandmothers taught them. These aren't innocent nursery rhymes, but protective chants, passed down through generations of women who understood that children's voices carry special power in the supernatural realm. The words they sing are often meaningless to adult ears, corrupted over time until their original meaning has been lost. But their rhythm and intonation remain precise, suggesting that the songs serve as keys that unlock specific spiritual protections. The children perform their role instinctively, understanding on some primal level that their participation is crucial to the community's survival through this dangerous night. As the hours stretch toward dawn, the supernatural activity begins to reach a crescendo that tests every protective measure the medieval community has put in place. Windows rattle in their frames despite the still air. Doors slam throughout the town with no visible cause. Animals that were silent earlier in the night now cry out in voices that sound almost human, as if they're trying to warn of dangers that only they can perceive. The most experienced practitioners move through the streets with increased urgency, checking and reinforcing the protective barriers they established earlier. Salt circles are refreshed with new material. Iron nails are driven deeper into door frames. Protective symbols are redrawn with blessed chalk that glows faintly in the darkness, as if the spiritual energy they channel has become visible to human eyes. You witness moments of genuine supernatural combat, brief encounters between human will and otherworldly force that leave both participants visibly drained. A village elder confronts what appears to be empty air, speaking sternly to something only he can see, his voice growing hoarse as he commands it to depart. A young woman trained in the old ways stands guard at a crossroads, preventing something from passing that would bring harm to the sleeping community beyond. These battles aren't won through violence, but through spiritual authority, through the absolute conviction that human beings have the right to defend their realm against intrusion from others. The medieval Halloween reveals itself as humanity's annual assertion of sovereignty over the physical world, a night when the living declare their intention to remain among the living despite whatever forces might seek to claim them. The celebration continues to evolve around you, each passing hour bringing new challenges and new revelations about the complex relationship between medieval society and the supernatural forces they believed shared their world. The Halloween night you're experiencing is far removed from modern interpretations, revealing itself as something both more terrifying and more meaningful than contemporary celebrations could ever hope to achieve. The final hours before dawn bring the most perilous phase of medieval Halloween, when exhausted spirits make their last desperate attempts to anchor themselves in the mortal realm. You feel the air grow thick with a tension that seems to press against your chest, making each breath an effort. The protective measures that held firm through the earlier hours begin to show signs of strain, like fortress walls under siege. In the town square, the great bonfire that burned so brightly at midnight has dwindled to smoldering embers, its protective light failing just when it's needed most. The firekeeper, an elderly man whose family has tended this flame for generations, works frantically to revive it, feeding precious wood and oil to coax the flames back to life. His hands shake, not from age, but from the knowledge that if the fire dies completely, the town's spiritual defenses will collapse entirely. You notice how the shadows have grown bolder, stretching longer than they should, despite the consistent placement of torches and lanterns. They seem to reach toward doorways and windows like grasping fingers, testing the strength of iron barriers and salt circles. Some shadows move independently of any light source, flowing across cobblestones like dark water, seeking cracks in the community's spiritual armor. The wise women emerge from the oak grove where they performed their earlier ritual, their faces grave with exhaustion and concern. Their protective summoning has held through most of the night, but the forces they bound are growing restless as dawn approaches. They move through the town methodically, checking each household's defenses, whispering urgent instructions to families huddled behind barred doors. At the blacksmith's forge, now cold and dark, iron horseshoes begin to ring like bells despite no one touching them. The sound creates an eerie melody that drifts through empty streets, each note seeming to call to something waiting just beyond the edge of perception. The blacksmith himself stands guard beside his anvil, hammer in hand, ready to forge whatever emergency protections might be needed before sunrise breaks the supernatural siege. You watch as the final soul cakes are distributed to the last brave soulers still moving through the dangerous streets. These offerings carry extra weight now, each prayer more fervent, each blessing more desperately needed. The soulers themselves appear changed by their night's work, their faces bearing the marks of encounters with forces that have left them older, wiser, and infinitely more cautious about the true nature of the world they inhabit. As the first pale light of dawn creeps across the eastern horizon, you witness the medieval Halloween night finally releasing its grip on the world. The supernatural forces that pressed so close for hours begin their reluctant retreat, shadows shortening to normal lengths, strange sounds fading into ordinary silence. Church bells ring out the morning hour, their bronze voices triumphant rather than fearful, announcing humanity's survival. Through another All Hallows Eve, the townspeople emerge slowly from their fortified homes, eyes scanning the streets for signs of what transpired in the darkness. Salt circles are swept away, iron charms carefully stored for next year's use, and turnip lanterns extinguished with whispered thanks. Children peek from doorways with the particular relief that comes only after genuine terror has passed. Their laughter tentative but real as sunlight dissolves the last of the night's mysteries. What you've witnessed tonight reveals the profound difference between medieval Halloween and our modern celebration. Where we see fun and fantasy, they experienced genuine spiritual warfare. Where we enjoy manufactured scares, they confronted actual supernatural forces that could claim lives and souls. Their Halloween was survival disguised as ceremony, ancient wisdom wrapped in ritual, humanity's collective defense against powers that existed beyond death's veil. The medieval understanding of Halloween reminds us that our ancestors lived in a world where magic felt as real as bread and stone, where the boundary between seen and unseen remained perpetually fragile. Their elaborate protections, their desperate prayers, their community bonds forged in shared terror all speak to a deeper truth about human nature and our eternal struggle with forces we cannot fully comprehend or control. So the next time you carve a pumpkin or hand out candy to trick-or-treaters, remember the turnip lanterns that once stood guard against genuine evil, the soul cakes that carried prayers for the dead, and the brave souls who faced down supernatural forces with nothing but faith, iron, and stubborn human will. Our Halloween may be safer, but theirs was infinitely more meaningful, a night when ordinary people became warriors in humanity's oldest battle against the darkness that lies beyond.